Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into evidence of the divine architect in nature. We're going to map out a really fascinating progression from our source text, looking at how the authors connect the microscopic, everyday laws of nature directly to the ultimate source of moral guidance. So, to start us off, let's look at the foundational anchor of our source text. The authors use this pretty profound statement to set up their whole premise. The one who constructed all things is God, citing Hebrews 3:4. In the context of the material we're looking at today, this is basically the central thesis. The authors are using the specific concept of a constructor, or, an architect, as the primary lens they want us to use when looking at the physical world around us. Let's see exactly how they apply that lens, starting with everyday education. We actually begin this journey in a super familiar setting, a typical science class. The source material points out that as kids learn and grow, they stumble upon this awe-inspiring reality about our environment, that the shapes and forms of literally everything around us are dictated by strict, unyielding physical laws. The text highlights that the physical world isn't just, a bunch of random chaos. Instead, things have definite structure. They've got specific shapes, and those shapes are governed by rigid rules we can actually study and understand. And it's this exact realization about structural laws that the authors use as a springboard. To really drive this home, the text uses one of the absolutely most stunning examples of these physical laws, fractals. The source defines fractals as these meticulous, repeating, geometric patterns. I mean, think about a snowflake, right? It isn't just water freezing randomly. Every single snowflake forms according to exact mathematical patterns. It's like a tiny, microscopic masterclass in geometry. Actually, a fun fact the source brings out, the intricate, six-sided symmetry of a snowflake is dictated by the molecular structure of water itself as it crystallizes. It's literal geometry in motion, following a strict natural law to arrive at a highly specific shape. But here's the thing, this microscopic perfection isn't just some isolated event. The source text really emphasizes that fractal patterns extend way beyond snowflakes. They actually act as a universal blueprint. Now, while the text doesn't list out every single example in the world, the implication is super clear. The exact same rules that make an ice crystal perfectly symmetrical are argued to be at work everywhere. They're creating a highly structured physical environment across multiple levels of nature. So, observing all this consistency, the source text naturally prompts the reader, specifically parents who are guiding their kids, to pause for a second and ask, but who made the laws that result in these beautiful patterns? This right here is where the text transitions from simple scientific observation into, philosophical inquiry. The authors are suggesting that if there's a highly specific mathematical rule in place, it's totally logical to wonder about the identity of the rule maker. Zooming out from just that single snowflake, the text asks us to ponder the massive, overarching design visible in the entirety of our environment. The source poses this parallel question: who is behind the order and careful design we see in nature? By framing it like this, the authors are asking us to consider that words like order and design inherently imply intent. It completely turns a basic science lesson into a much larger discussion about intentional creation. The source actually maps out an exact three-step progression for a young mind to follow here. Step 1, the learner observes physical laws, just like our snowflake. Step 2, they're guided to think deeply about that order, asking those big origin questions we just talked about. And finally, Step 3, the text argues that this logical chain organically helps them develop a really strong belief that God created all things. The source makes the case that the more you contemplate these specific questions about order in nature, the more naturally this deeply held belief is going to form. Okay, so once that foundational belief is locked in through observing the physical world, the text shifts its perspective to our internal personal lives. It proposes what it views as a really pivotal question. If God created us, would it not be reasonable to conclude that he has also given us moral guidance on how to be happy? Notice the huge pivot the source material makes right there. It takes the concept of a physical architect who designs literal structures and applies it directly to human emotion and morality. The text is attempting to bridge a pretty massive gap between two distinct realms here. On one side, you have the physical realm that's governed by strict laws that dictate shapes and create order. On the other side, you've got the spiritual realm, which is governed by moral guidance leading to human well-being and happiness. The argument they're presenting is that just as the physical world absolutely requires laws to avoid total chaos, the human experience logically requires moral guidance to successfully navigate life. And when it comes to finding that ultimate blueprint for human happiness, the source text points clearly to one specific answer, stating that such valuable guidance is found in the Bible. So this whole intellectual journey, the one that kicked off with observing the repeating geometric patterns of a snowflake in science class, concludes, according to the authors, with finding a moral compass in this specific sacred text. The source material is essentially presenting the Bible as the definitive instructional manual, provided by the exact same architect who meticulously designed the laws of physics and nature. As noted in the source material we cover today, for more information on all these concepts, readers are directed to visit jw.org. As you reflect on this explainer and how the text connects the microscopic perfection of a snowflake to a master plan for human happiness, please remember to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you these structured breakdowns. And I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought based on our analysis. If you look really closely at the precise order of the natural world, how does that shape the way you view the structure, and perhaps the guidance in your own life?